Yes, folks, it's happy talk time. Once again, we are GrokTALK, a production of GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's leading libertarian and conservative website where we opine daily on multiple things, pretty much all the time. We try to keep fresh content up there. So if you like what you hear, come on over to GrokTALK.com and read more. And hopefully you'll become a fan of both the show as well as the website. And once again, we have Susan Grokster Mike and our guest Jeff Chidester, and Father Christian is out yakking with somebody else, and that's fine. There he is, late. Yes, we will have you serve penance later.
But the thing is, too, is that, when you think about the people who end up being on your show, I mean, there is a danger for the Father being here because he's got to be careful. He's not sure what we're going to say. And so,
Well, I tell politicians all the time because they're a little hesitant to go here or go in certain places, and I go, not a problem. We can say stuff we know you can't say.
I actually had a business a couple weeks ago canceled their segment with me because you guys know that nonprofits, but also small businesses, are a passion of mine in New Hampshire. I try to promote them as often as I can. Actually canceled a segment because they found out I was conservative and that I do talk conservative things regarding a topic I had never covered, had not written on, and canceled a segment, 20 minutes of promoting their restaurant because they disagreed with my politics. And I asked them, I said, so you've listened to my show, you've listened to my podcast, and you've read my articles, none of which have ever been fined by the FCC nor kicked off out of a paper that is the Portsmouth Herald, which is extremely liberal, has ever been pushed out as anything but honest. And he goes, no, I haven't. I said, you're being really unfair to yourself because what you're missing is, one, an opportunity to understand where I'm coming from. Two, 20 minutes of free airtime on the number one news talk station in New Hampshire to promote your business seems foolish to me. But, that's, this kind of table conversation that we have here that I'm sure if a left-leaning person were to listen to us, had they not listened to us before, would probably be somewhat surprised, but like the last exchange we had, of our desire to wanting to make sure that we do help our neighbors. But there are better ways of doing it other than handing over my money to the government and watching 10 cents make it back into the community. Better ways.
Well, it goes back to the idea. Why is the norm rapidly becoming outsourcing what should be a voluntary act to the government, to faceless bureaucrats? And it just goes on and on.
Bureaucrats do not do anything out of compassion, understand it. Now, there may be a compassion element of themselves, but in the end, the one thing you can understand about a bureaucrat is that they will never do something where they believe there's an end in sight. There's no such thing as an end program, no such thing as an end. And although their heart may be good, I talk to people who become journalists or policemen. One of the top answers for policemen and firemen is, I want to help people. One of the top answers for journalists is, I want to tell the truth.
No.
But that's the top answer for a graduate. I want to tell the truth, and somehow that's it. I'm sure a bureaucrat, when they first started that wonderful job of believing that they're helping people, says that, I want to help people. But when you go back to them in 10 years and say, you've helped everybody, so you're ready to go ahead and close shop, they go, no, of course not.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you.
No, you can't. I'm your guest. You're supposed to be nice to your guest. And where are the donuts, by the way?
I'm not going to embarrass one person.
Don't embarrass my son. My son is an awesome kid, and
they were sold out. The fairs, everybody's bought them all out.
I know. That's all right.
He went and look.
He's like Homer Simpson. He could find a donut if the donut did exist in Concord, and obviously it does not.
All right. On that idea of the bureaucrats, they're just doing a job.
He's a policeman's son. He must be able to find donuts.
It's funny you say that. His name is Matthew Adams. So, named very biblical. First man, and of course, Matthew, certainly one of my favorite from the Bible, but I originally suggested the name Duncan, and his mom looked at me and said, there is no way in hell we're going to name the son of a policeman Duncan, as in Dunkin' Donuts.
Okie dokie then. You were spared, child.
Smoky.
Okay.
He still had to be raised by me, though.
Yes. I'm going to try to get 3 questions in this last segment. We've got 21 minutes. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, I know.
That's why you shouldn't have that.
First, lots of waivers, then the repeal of the 1099s, then the Class Act, then the states refusing to expand Medicaid. Then the states refusing to do the exchanges. Lots of lawsuits against the HHS mandate. Lots of employers dropping employees in their hours for the 50 employee, 30-hour limit. IRS breaking the law on intending on giving tax credits when the feds run the exchange, even though the law says those tax credits can only be given out when the states run their healthcare exchange. Dragooning California teens into being government agents to yak their parents into signing up for Obamacare. We've got the federal data hub that'll look like the NSA being a tinker toy as far as hoovering up personal data. We've got delays on rolling out the exchanges. So tell me, how come Obama is still going to succeed with Obamacare? I'm taking a contrarian opinion here. Why is he still going to, even with all of this, how come he still wins?
Because it's not illegal to be stupid?
That might be a true observation, but that's not the answer. Nice try, though. Next.
Because he subverts the Constitution no matter what he does. It's arbitrary and capricious non-enforcement of the laws of the land.
That's a real good point. Father Christian. Oh, this is a good one.
It is a good one.
People are afraid of being labeled as racist.
Huh?
It's
People
not
are afraid.
racist to dislike stupidity.
Yes, but most of the people, and see, those of you that cannot see me, most of you that cannot see me, I am a person of color that is sitting here.
Oh, yes, they can.
Well, yes, but those listening cannot say, so I can say things that other people can't. But as I've looked around it, I think people are afraid because he is our first African-American president, but also of good white stock too, that people seem to forget, that they don't want to be labeled as being racist.
Right.
Okay.
And that's
White
what
black.
And
They're
that's
going to call George Zimmerman,
Like Hispanic.
well, George is Hispanic.
he is Latino.
So let's call Obama a white
So for
Kevin.
me, it hit two reasons. One, the government gets to make the rules, and two, the media is going to provide cover. The media determines the winners for the public.
Well, I was going to talk about the media in the second question. My thing is that we're putting out yet another level of dependency. That once more, people don't have to do for themselves. That is another fundamental transformation. Again, even though we start off on a topic and we go all over the place, not so much this week as we have in other weeks, but we all tend to eventually link everything up because everything is linked for us.
Sure.
As bloggers and commentarianisms.
And
I guess that's a
I'm
word.
a commentarianism?
Well,
I don't like being an ism anything.
he's part
somebody who does commentary. Thank you.
Yes.
He's part of the commentariat.
That's what I was. That's what I was trying to get to. But it really is a case of Americans used to do for themselves, or as you've done very well at explaining, Jeff. You went to the kitchen table. You went to your friends. You went to your extended family, and you worked your way out. Now it's just a case of, and I swear I keep bringing this up, but I cannot get this image out of my mind, of that young black adult lady up to her knees in Katrina with her hands up raised to the helicopter. Yeah. Please save me. I mean, that's the picture I get. That plus working in our daycare, of single mothers with a couple of kids saying, well, I have to stay home because my kid's a little, as my wife is walking up with our two little ones up the hallway. She's working full time. But this whole idea that you have to take care of me. That lady in Florida with the 30-odd kids, and they're all packed into one bedroom. I mean, she had kids by how many different people? I put it out on Granite Rock. And then lately that black guy down south who had 17 kids. It's like, somebody's going to take care of them. Where's the personal responsibility go? And that's what we're losing.
Well, you talk about that visual during the storm of Katrina. I lived in New Orleans for close to 10 years. Moved there in the early 80s, right after the first collapse in the price of oil. And in those days, New Orleans had been quite an oil industry-intensive town because of the offshore drilling and Oh yeah, yeah. So there was a tremendous pool of skilled labor there. There was a great tax base. But when the oil price collapsed, companies skedaddled and New Orleans was left behind. And what I came to learn, and really it was a wonderful and horrifying education, was that in New Orleans there were the black ruling class and there was the white ruling class. And they had sort of a tacit agreement between themselves that you leave us alone, we leave you alone. We don't get in your business, you don't get in our business. And it worked quite well because each side, both the white ruling class and the black ruling class, bred their own constituencies and developed their own policies that supported their continuing domination of those two sects. And there wasn't friction between them. And it was only when the money truly began to run out and folks were in trouble,
Right.
that the two had to begin to talk with one another, that truly the wheels fell off, because you learned the depths to which people were subjected truly to keeping them in their place. Poor, uneducated, cut off from truly civil society.
Well, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it was deliberate. It was deliberate.
It's the Democrat plantation which they unfairly want to suck minorities into.
But the thing is that self-reliance is lost, and there's got to be better ways of getting it. And we talked about shame too, and I think about the fact of when we look at it, and I said I'm one generation removed from the coal mines, and basically what happened is my grandfather decided that when you worked for the coal mines, when he worked for the coal mines, you got store script. You basically got paid by the coal mines with their money. You couldn't take that money anymore. And what would happen is every year, the Democrats would come into their coal mine village and say, we have $5 US American dollars for your vote. And they would hand it out. And every time someone would ask, what happens if I don't vote for your candidate? And the person would say, I'm going to punish your whole village. If we do not get every single vote, none of you will get $5 next year. And $5 was a lot of money. This was right at the top of the Depression, and my grandfather just couldn't conscious that. And he was Catholic too. To be Catholic in the South was another thing that really segregated you and put you apart. And he basically looked at his family and said, "That's it. We're leaving." And he went down and got a job as a porter on the trains. And if any of you know anything about history, porters were reserved for the black community.
Yep.
But because he was Catholic, that's what he had to do. He was segregated because he was Catholic in a place in which they frowned upon Catholics. And he worked his way all the way up to being a conductor. And every time there was a new position, he would bring one of his black porter friends with him and put him in that position. He integrated the railroad slowly but surely without them even knowing it, because that's what he could do. And I think that I listened to that story about my grandfather, who I never had a chance to meet, and I wonder what happened to America? What happened to America? Tell me what to do with my vote? Come on, family, we're moving. And work your way up through sometimes the worst conditions. I still have that in my blood, and I wonder, and I know you guys have it in your blood, and I go, where is this in America now? Where is it?
It's hard to know where it's gone, Jeff. And I'll be honest with you. We talked briefly about the Free State Project switching and going to Detroit rather than New Hampshire. And I'm looking at them, and I want them to come here. I want all 15,000 of those guys here. I may not agree with them, and some of them may act like the keen kiddies that don't exactly do such a hot job of representing that philosophy, because a lot of them out there are really anarchists, which most of the Free Staters
Can't have that.
Anarchy will just devolve into the rule of the strong man.
Need that debate, need that phone line. We got an anarchist who wants to debate us.
Yeah, well, we should bring him in and get him scheduled and get him in here. But I look at that and go, that's where people have become divorced from their government. They want to live their own lives. They just want to do it. The government really shouldn't be at the forefront. But
No.
progressives have made the tendrils of government go into absolutely everything. I challenge each of you. When you first wake up in the morning, start thinking, what I am doing, what I am wearing, what am I eating, what am I driving, what am I doing at work or school, how much is determined already by government? And that's the problem. You've got the bureaucracies who basically, we have one person, not so much. But
You choose black or white, right?
That's right.
yeah, but you look at it, and how many decisions have already been made for you by a bureaucracy? Like you said, they don't want their part of government to end, so they have to self-justify and do more and more and more. Excuse me. Which means as they do more, we get less.
Right.
And people don't, it's that incremental boiling of the frog. People, look at the Tea Party, it just sprung, it finally was enough. And we see what government did with the IRS, and they basically crushed the Tea Party. And now the Tea Party is kind of going, really?
They couldn't be, right. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because we all play the Tea Party in one way or another. The reality is that when you talk about that, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about, self-reliance and what happened to it, we all forget, go back to the Declaration of Independence, our creator. Our rights, our natural rights come from our creator. We are sovereign states unto ourselves. And one, we have to accept that right, but we also have to accept that responsibility. And no sane man would surrender their sovereignty to another person, but sometimes that little surrendering is necessary to bind a community for our own benefit, defense, firefighting, whatever it might be. We have gotten to the point now where government just assumes that individual sovereignty is theirs to define and theirs to determine how we get to use it. And this proclamation of individual, forget it. Remember that you are that sovereign state. You are that sovereign state, and start exercising not only that right, but that responsibility.
And that is why the friend that wants to debate us from Texas, so it'll have to be by phone,
Texas. No more Texas.
Just
kidding. So you're a New Hampshireite. You are a New Hampshireite. You cannot claim Texas as any more than
one war, one Texas Ranger.
Is promoting sovereign living, which is basically off the grid, off the government, as much as possible.
Too far.
But the problem with that is capitalism works, individual responsibility works. However,
it does.
However, voluntary cooperation will only get you so far. Governments are instituted amongst men, yada yada, for the whole purpose of preserving the rights. The question is, how the hell do you constrain it? Because it's not looking very constrained.
Well, okay, and I'm going to break in here because we've got about 10 minutes, actually about 9 minutes left, and I'm going to switch gears sort of here.
Last question.
Go ahead.
Bob?
No, what do you want?
Give us an answer.
Did you have something to say?
No, I'm just in awe.
He's leaning in.
Oh, speaking of leaning in, that's a good lead into my next question. The mainstream media always claims that it reflects society, that the media only shows back as a mirror as to what's going on in society and does not influence it. And yet, Chris Matthews saying, I will apologize to you too for all white people. It's sort of a step too far. But anyways, the Zimmerman trial not once mentioned the Florida Stand Your Ground law, yet the MSM has it on 24/7. Are they reporters or are they advocates? You said, when journalists...
MSNBC.
Well, hold on. You said the journalists come out, they say they want to just tell the truth. And really it's more of a case of, we want to make the world better.
Absolutely, and the MSNBC is one of the worst groups out there in the world. They're free to say what they need to say, but the problem is that they are the Linus blanket for the liberals. The liberals run to it and wrap it around them and hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see, and sadly, then they go out and they try to debate it. And it's fun to debate an MSNBC pure watcher, because what happens is their facts suddenly crumble around them. And they suddenly realize that this organization they believe is their wonderful security blanket. But I want to say one thing about MSNBC. They have inflamed this situation down in Florida so bad that it has gotten me to the point where I'm like, what scum you are to divide your community, to divide races, to divide sexes, to such a point where this hatred and vitriol has been the part of the conversation. Shame on them, and those people should leave there every single night saying to themselves that I am the scum that I say that I'm railing against. And it is sad because the parents of Trayvon seem like very decent people. There's a lot of things about this that just is heartbreaking about this situation, but all they have managed to do is tear the community apart and tear a nation apart again.
But it gets
sorry.
good ratings, Jeff.
It doesn't get good ratings. The ratings, they have dropped again in the last 2 weeks. You know what
But
does
we're
get
all
ratings?
still talking about race riots in Florida.
Brett Baer does 2 news stories. He led with Detroit. He talks about the problems. And once again, they are the Linus security blanket for liberals. And the fact is that it is a sad state of affairs that this conversation became a national story. It is a sad state of affairs that it has managed to split a community. And it is a sad state of affairs, once again, I am called a racist for, one, not even talking about the story.
Well,
I didn't talk about it once.
My question was actually going to be.
Sorry. Right. It's been. My son has heard my frustrations throughout the whole week.
Turbocharged squirrels again.
Yes. Is it a case where the MSM really does just reflect society, or are they trying to shape society?
Shape.
And I will tell you that I really got, it's been obvious for years, but the New York Times, 2 reporters on NPR a few years ago actually said, we use the status of the paper to shape the battleground for homosexual marriage. That's just the way it goes. So we talk about the sovereign citizen. How does the ordinary person out on the street who's been educated in a government school without extra help from home understand what the mainstream media is saying, whether it's truth or whether it's advocacy, or now that they just decided to repeal the law that said the American government could not do propaganda here in its own country? Is it going to be propaganda?
Did they repeal that law?
They
Yes,
did.
they did.
I'm sorry. Okay.
This past week.
So let me put a little social commentary on that. If the media is reflecting society, we're sunk.
Indeed.
Teen moms.
Well,
That TV show, right? I mean, it started off on the cover of Rolling Stone, and yeah, it's pathetic. And as a member of the media, and as somebody who looks at it and tries to decide how to even report on stories, I do filter stories. But the thing that I do is that my audience holds me accountable.
Well, we announce all the time. We are conservative, libertarian, and viewpoint.
Yeah.
We do citizen journalism at times at Granite Rock. We take the camera, we record it, we put it right up, we'll chop it up time-wise, or maybe by person or by issue, but we don't edit it. We don't do anything like that. Right. We just put it up. This is pure commentary, folks. Don't think it is other than that.
And let me give you an example. And Trayvon Martin.
Father Christian's just sitting there going, how do you guys bounce from story to story like this?
And when we look at the media, and they do shape it, and the reality is that this past week, on Tuesday, a young black man with his friend saw a girl being kidnapped, a young 5-year-old, pursued the vehicle on their bikes, and pursued it to the point where that young child was free. Now, if we do have a race crisis in this country, and the media was really concerned about having a conversation, should that not have been the lead story? And say, look, folks, there is this goodness that exists, and they don't. Instead, it was better to keep inflaming the situation. There's a lot of ifs in that story. So.
But shouldn't... Oh, he called me Sue. Have you not had the discussion?
No,
Susan,
we have
sorry.
not.
Oh, okay. Well...
give him a pass once.
You get one. You get one, Sue. But shouldn't the story have been two young boys
Yes, I
saved
agree.
a child? The race shouldn't have made any difference
It
at
should
all.
never
It
make
should
a
have been
difference.
2 children doing the right thing. Period.
Right, and I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%. But once again, they choose not to talk about that narrative, and then they choose to ignore the positiveness within our communities.
Positiveness.
I make up words all the time, and people often check the dictionary to see if they're true.
I have a Strunken white in my car.
Let's use that.
Well, we may have to carry this next question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking that all of this goes back to, you're talking about if they shape humanity, if they shape our society. Where are all the parents, where are the educators, where are the clergy in all of this, that it's their duty to inform and to mold young people, not People magazine, not the National Enquirer, not all of these other outside entities. Because what have we done then? We've given over our own moral authority to very questionable outlets. And if that's where our children are getting their morals, or
and we come back to your phrase of the show:
Absolutely.
stand your ground morally.
I like that.
I love that.
You need to be well armed, morally,
You do?
And intellectually.
intellectually. Your parents need to arm you morally.
And
Intellectual firepower is the one you need to use first.
Indeed. And then you throw the bench.
Well, we're often called the safest podcast session here in New Hampshire, and I think you can all figure out what I mean by that too.
Yes.
I've got a controversial thing here. Is Salon a leftist website?
Of course it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Okay, a quote from Salon, pardon me here. Some of us have an inner child, others have an inner nigger. Is Holder the president's conscience, or is he his inner and you know what?
And
That is from Salon.
But they can
yesterday.
say that.
okay, but who is the author, so that we don't get nailed by it?
A Rich Benjamin.
Rich Benjamin. Richard Benjamin.
Yeah, we'll get in trouble just because you
Use
said
the
it,
word.
but that's okay.
no, that's all right. I give him a pass for that.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you,
you. Absolution, right? Absentively.
Forgive me, Father, I have sinned.
There we go. All good.
All Saints conquered Hal Street.
That's right. That's right. 9 o'clock.
Sunday
Like
mornings.
mass.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think I'm going to leave us with this because we're just about out of time here. Obama did say during his impromptu press conference, I think it's going to be important for all of us to do some soul searching. There's been talk that we should convene a conversation of race. I haven't seen that particularly productive. Gee, I wonder
please.
why.
Oh, please.
Well, folks, it's been a wonderful 2 hours. I want to thank our guest, Jeff Chidester, Father Christian Tudor. As always, Grokster Susan, Grokster Mike. And we're hoping that Grokster Steve is feeling better.
That's
Oh, he's feeling well enough to be posting stuff when it wasn't incoherent.
Oh, well, that's good. And I'll put up the rest of the questions, and we'll talk about that online, perhaps. But anyways, I'm Skip. You've been listening to GrokTALK, a production of GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative and libertarian blog site. See, we don't hide our biases; we're proud of them. Have a good week.
Yay.
Yeah, I couldn't believe my eyes when I read that.
Yeah,
As a tweet
Well-
from Salon, believe it or not.
Well,
I believe it. They're a terrible sight.
Well, Salon is. That's where, what's her face? She's on MSNBC all the time. What's her name?
I've never
Joan-
watched MSNBC.
You have to watch
Joan
it.
Walsh.
Joan Walsh.
Yeah, and what was this what you were looking for, Skip, at the corner? Saul Alinsky would have loved the IRS. I mean running it. It would have allowed him to realize in pure form his preference for attacking his enemies through their donors, not debate.
No, that wasn't it. There's another one about the demonizing. I just got to dig it out. That's all.
Ah, okay.
All right, secure. What's today's date? 7/20.
20.
Oh, please tell me this.
And you have to put your arm up for the film.
I feel like my first radio station.
Oh,
That used to be one of the studios, or also the storage location.
Okay.
And every once in a while, you'd be on the air, and someone would come in and use the copy, and the copy was rolling at that time. And you hear, so I'd be trying to do the sports, and you hear.
Yep,
They go,
indeed.
and I used to say, right off the teletype, here's your news.
GrokTALK.